Good morning, and thank you all for joining us. Thanks even larger to all of our local, state, and federal partners who are here with us today and who have been working since this explosion occurred yesterday afternoon. I went to the scene yesterday afternoon and saw all of our amazing first responders and partner agencies working hard, working together, risking their lives to ensure that the scene was safe, that we rescued as many individuals as possible so that everyone who was impacted was safe and would be protected. And I have no doubt that many lives were saved because of the men and women in this room and their colleagues in their respective agencies. However, it saddens me to report that we received word late yesterday that there are 2 victims who have passed away as a result of this explosion. Before we get into more details on the incident, I'd like to pause for a moment of silence to honor the memories of these 2 victims. We hope that their memories may be a blessing. Thank you very much. And I want the families of the 2 victims to know that the hearts of all Louisvillians are with them. We will be here to support them, to keep them strong during this difficult time as they face challenges in the days, weeks, and months ahead. I know that there have been some reports about one of the victims' names. The families of both of the victims have asked at this time to please respect their privacy. And so we are encouraging the media to comply with the victims' families' wishes at this time. This is an incredibly sad and tragic incident. These 2 individuals who have passed went to their job in an ordinary day to provide for their family when the unthinkable happened. The first victim who passed away was transported to U of L Hospital and died as a result of the injuries sustained in the blast. The second victim was found in the rubble late last night as Louisville firefighters went back into the building late last night to confirm that everyone had been accounted for. Initially, we had all been told that at the scene by the business, we'd been told by the business that all of the employees were accounted for. Tragically, that was not the case. The Louisville Fire Department is taking the lead, as they have since yesterday, and so to share more information about what unfolded yesterday and what's going on at the scene right now, I'd like to first introduce Chief Brian O'Neill from the Louisville Fire Department. Chief O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we started getting multiple 911 calls about an explosion. Firefighters responded to the scene swiftly. We had companies on the scene within about 3.5 minutes. They found an area that had obviously dealt with a tremendous explosion. This was a business that is known to us. Our companies do a very good job of inspecting the first alarm area. They know what's out there. So we knew right away that we were dealing not only with a fire, but also a structural collapse and also a hazardous materials incident. These are 3 disciplines that we all train in, so they were prepared to handle that, but you need to understand that it makes things extraordinarily difficult. We got extra companies to the scene swiftly. The first companies that arrived made a very aggressive interior attack, not only to extinguish the fire, but to search for victims. They assisted several victims with evacuation, and we found 1 victim that was partially buried. They got in there, took tremendous risk to get to him and get him out. As the mayor mentioned, we did end up having a second victim, so you need to understand that despite any reports that we have, if our firefighters respond to a vacant and abandoned structure, they treat it as if it is occupied and they search everywhere they need to search. And that's what our firefighters did in this business yesterday. And they continued to search everywhere that was possibly tenable. We're dealing now with an unstable building that has partially collapsed and could collapse further. And we're dealing with an unknown at the time of hazardous materials release possibly. But our firefighters are still going to take that risk and search throughout that building. They searched everywhere that they safely could and did not find anything. As the time went on and we secured the area, It was made evident to us that there was another person that was not found, so our firefighters got back in there, searched into an area into the center of the rubble, found where he was located. Our structural collapse technicians came back out. This is a discipline that has to move very slowly because of the potential for a secondary collapse. They set up shoring and everything to take care of that, and it took several hours to finally get to the victim and dig them out, but we want to make sure that that family has closure and that we have respect for those that we've lost. It was about a little after midnight last night that they got them out. Going forward, when you look at this scene will still be in our control for some time going forward because there's going to be an investigation to exactly what happened. I know many of you are probably concerned, say what actually happened, why did it happen, and I'm going to apologize in advance. We don't have those answers immediately. That is going to be a part of the investigation. We're very grateful that ATF has offered their assistance in this, and they're going to bring a team in to give us assistance. We have a lot of great resources locally, but we are not so we are humble enough to know that if we can get help, we're going to take it. So that'll be going on through the next couple of days, so we will still be in charge of that site. Air monitoring was set up from the get-go, not only in the immediate area, but the entire vicinity to make sure that we're keeping the community as safe as possible. Throughout this incident and even continuing on, we have not had any issues with air monitoring. We have not found anything that is hazardous or of concern. If there was, we wouldn't have had our firefighters digging through the rubble. So no, we will continue to do that as we go on. And that as far as causes, as far as anything else going on at the scene, that's all going to be part of the investigation. And I'll pass off now to the Director of Emergency Management, Jody Myman, to talk a little more about that.
Thank you, Chief O'Neill. So Chief O'Neill mentioned something about getting inundated with 911 calls, and just to put it into perspective, on Monday during the same time period, a 30-minute window, we received just under 100 911 calls, and that was a normal day type of number of calls that were coming in. During the same 30-minute period yesterday, it tripled. It was almost 300 911 calls between our admin lines and our 911 calls that came into the 911 center just on the other side of this wall. This obviously became a multi-agency coordination and a coordinated response very, very quickly, not only with our local responders, but our state and federal responders to come in and get through the actual initial part of the incident and then figure out what's next. This posed a lot of challenges. The initial response, they had to avoid debris that was in the road, that was in the neighborhood. You had neighbors that were coming out wondering obviously what was going on, confronting the first responders about potential damage that they had with their dwellings. We had a massive amount of power outages. I can't thank our local utility partners, MSD, the water company, and LG&E for all their partnership and their work yesterday. We've been notified this morning that all power has been restored except for the site itself. But again, this posed a lot of challenges. Just getting into the scene with the narrow access of the roadway, with the number of fire apparatus, EMS, police, and all the other responders that were getting in there. So this posed, again, a lot of challenges to all the first responders. We did identify this morning, we initiated a shelter in place. We did knock on doors. We only evacuated about a 1.5 block area to the people that were directly involved, and it was mainly because they couldn't shelter in place because their windows were broken out due to the explosion. So the firefighters, some of the firefighters that weren't assigned inside the building knocked on doors. We got the people that needed to get out of the area to a certain location where they were safe. We did identify that we did have an issue with our lens alert system. It did go out to social media, and it did go out to anyone that's subscribed to the Smart 911 app. But there was what we're leaning towards a human error on the text and emails, and we're looking into that internally here at MetroSafe.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for your and your team's response, along with all the other agencies that are here with us today. In addition to government agencies, when incidents like this occur, there are many other organizations that also play a key role in saving lives and responding to the emergency. And one of our great partners that we are so fortunate to have here in Louisville is U of L Hospital and U of L Healthcare. 12 victims were transported to several local hospitals yesterday. And so I want to thank all of the doctors, the nurses, all of the medical staff that treated these individuals. There is no doubt that between the work of Louisville Fire Department and all of these medical professionals, that lives were definitely saved yesterday. The most seriously injured at the scene were transported to U of L Hospital, our regional trauma center, who does incredible work every day of the year to keep people alive and keep people safe. So for an update from U of L Healthcare, I'd like to welcome Dr. Jason Smith, who runs their trauma center there at U of L Hospital. Dr. Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say congratulations and thank you to the EMS providers that brought us the patients and for the fire rescue that went in and took care of those patients. One of the most important things you can do in a scene like this is get the patients from the scene to an area where we can have definitive care, and they really did an absolutely outstanding job yesterday. 7 patients were brought to University Hospital yesterday following the incident. One of those was in critical condition and subsequently expired from his injuries yesterday evening. We wound up admitting 4 others. All of those are in stable condition this morning. The remaining 3 were able to be discharged with follow-up from the care. As far as the condition of injuries, overall we saw a spectrum of injuries, including blast injuries, some thermal injuries, and injuries from falling debris, which is fairly consistent with a site like this. Additionally, we took additional steps for decontamination process, given the scene and the chemicals involved and the unknown nature of what was coming in. We did undergo, all the patients did undergo decontamination procedures prior to coming into the hospital and subsequently have demonstrated no significant effects from any type of exposure at the time of this morning when we reevaluated them. So again, I think hats off to the team that went into the building and rescued those folks. They did an absolutely outstanding job, and I appreciate them every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smith. This was certainly a big team effort in response to this explosion yesterday. We have our friends from the executive director of our state Homeland Security. Josh Keats is with us here today at the state level. They were working closely with all of our local agencies, and also there was federal agencies involved as well. One of those agencies is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Their national response team is on the way today. However, yesterday, immediately in response to this explosion, local officials from the ATF were there as well. So I'd next like to introduce Special Agent in charge of the ATF, Sean Morrow, to share a little bit about their work yesterday and today.
Well, good morning. My name is Sean Morrow. I'm the Special Agent in charge for the ATF's Louisville Division. Before I get started, I do want to echo the Mayor's comments and extend our condolences to the families who lost their loved ones yesterday, and also to let the other victims know that we're praying for their speedy recovery as well. Yesterday, special agents and task force officers from our Louisville field offices responded to the incident in the Clifton neighborhood. ATF is the federal agency that's primarily responsible for administering and enforcing federal laws pertaining to explosives and arson. In carrying out those duties, ATF has gained extensive experience investigating large explosives and fire scenes. Our role in this incident is to support the Louisville Metro Fire Department and their lead investigators in the Arson Bureau, and to help determine the cause of yesterday's explosion. Metro Fire and Arson Bureau are the leads, and ATF is in a support role. We've deployed ATF's national response team to the scene, and they'll begin their work a little bit later today. The NRT has significant experience with these type of investigations. They are experts. They have some unique capabilities for these type of incidents. The teams are made up of ATF special agents, fire investigators, explosive specialists, and bomb technicians, chemists, structural and electrical engineers, medics, and canines, and also intel analysts. They have lots of tools at their disposal. They're very well equipped to handle a scene of this size. ATF's role is well defined. We're providing technical assistance to the city to help determine the exact cause of the incident, and we'll make sure that Louisville has all the tools they need to get the job done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morrow. We know that as a result of this explosion, many homes in the area were damaged. We're asking folks who live around this incident site, around the Payne Street location, and whose homes may have been damaged, please do not remove any debris that's in your yard. Please do not touch any of the damage. We ask that you contact MetroSafe immediately. If you have debris in your yard, if you believe your home has damage, please reach out to us at 574-2117. Again, please call MetroSafe at 574-2117. Getting a handle on all of the debris is going to be incredibly helpful to all of the investigators as they piece together what happened yesterday. And additionally, if you have damage to your home as well, please call MetroSafe. Of course, you should also reach out to your insurance company in addition to that as well. Some individuals yesterday who lived near the explosion site were displaced as a result of the explosion. I also want to thank the American Red Cross that is with us here today. They were at the hospital yesterday with some of the victims and their families to provide resources to them as they do after disasters such as this. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a strong organization like the American Red Cross here in our city to support individuals who are impacted in times of crisis like this. A few other agencies that are here with us today that have been with us there since the beginning of our first calls received that I want to thank and are here if there are any questions to answer. I want to thank LMPD. LMPD did a fantastic job responding to the scene, ensuring that the scene was safe, and also connecting with the victims, and their victims' advocates have been wonderful with the families of those that have been impacted. We also have the Air Pollution Control District, APCD, is here with us today in case there are any questions. I want to give a special thanks also to Councilman Andrew Owen. Councilman Owen was with us at the scene yesterday. He was providing comfort and speaking with employees that were inside the building at the time of the explosion, and also reaching out to neighbors who were impacted by the explosion to ensure that Louisville Metro government was providing whatever support and resources we could. So again, a giant thanks to Councilman Owen. We're also very fortunate to have great partners from the Greater Louisville Central Labor Council. Todd Dunn, the president of the Greater Louisville Central Labor Council, is here with us today. The Greater Louisville Central Labor Council is reaching out to impacted employees to provide them with some cash support given the impact this has been to their life. This was not a union facility, but still to see the support, to support other working families from the Greater Louisville Central Labor Council is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Todd, to you and your colleagues. Again, just a great reflection of the support that Louisville entire city has in moments of tragedy like this. We're also joined by Metro EMS, who immediately responded to the scene and is with us here today. MSD, that has been with us on the site since yesterday. OSHA is here with us as well. And I mentioned Executive Director Josh Keats from State Homeland Security earlier as well. Finally, I would like to say that we have been in contact with the leadership of the company where this plant did occur. They are not with us here this morning. They did ask me to pass along to express gratitude to all of the first responders who responded and have been impacted by this explosion. They will continue to communicate directly with the media, is our understanding. That is a lot about what we know at this time. We wanted to continue to provide the information that we have as soon as we have it so that everyone is in the know. With that concludes our prepared remarks, and we are happy to take any questions that the media might have. Maybe we should just start on the left here, and we'll move across the room. Paul?
Who's the lead investigator? Is it Louisville Fire?
Yes.
Chief,
Yes.
based on the damage, how confident are you you'll be able to find and determine the cause of this?
When you're dealing with a large explosion like this and such a massive amount of destruction, it's going to be difficult. But again, our people are experts in this. We have the assistance of the ATF, and we have, what you're basically trying to do is to reconstruct that as best you can. But I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that we're going to be able to point a finger and pinpoint something exactly. But again, these people are good at what they do, and they're going to come up with some good answers.
What hazardous materials were known to be at that location prior to the explosion?
Sure. So we have continuous inspections of things in the area. So immediately upon the scene, we knew exactly what they had in that building. But when you're looking at an explosion, we don't know what's been compromised and what hasn't. So that's where our monitoring comes in. So again, we're monitoring the area, we're monitoring not only the air, we're monitoring any of the runoff because, the sprinkler systems had activated. We have our fire hoses to help extinguish the fire. We monitor that for any type of other chemicals. We did not find any evidence of any release of anything hazardous, not only in the air, but also that. Now, as far as what they had on scene, it was the typical things that you would expect for a company like that. It was potash, it was aqueous ammonia, which is a diluted solution. It's a few other things that they put in here, but again, this is something that would be typical of any other similar type of company of this type.
Why did you go back into the building around midnight? What new information did you have that anybody would have?
So again, we get there on the scene and we are going to immediately aggressively enter. We're going to search everywhere that we possibly can. Even after we're getting reports that everybody had been accounted for, we're going to double check everything that we can. At that point, every place that we could have safely searched had been checked. But then we got additional reports at about 7:30 or 8 o'clock last night that there may have been another person unaccounted for. So we sent some of our structural collapse technicians back in there to very carefully search through an area. In an area that was completely covered in rubble, we did find where that victim was. And at that point, again, trying to show dignity for the family and to make sure that we take care of everyone, we sent our people back in. It was about a 3.5-hour process to safely get into that area to get to that person and recover that victim.
Can you say anything about what that report is that you got?
Again, it's just dealing with the plant and with their personnel. And once they came back to us and said, because initially we had heard that everyone had been accounted for, but they said they had found somebody else that was not. Yes, sir.
What do you say to the longtime people who have lived in that neighborhood, who have gone through this before, who are saying this plant should not be in a residential area?
So that's going to be something that's going to have to come through the vet, and that's outside of the purview of the fire chief.
Can you also clarify the numbers? Do we know 2 are dead? How many others are hurt altogether, if you exclude those who passed away?
9 others.
9 others, 2 dead, 9 hurt, correct? Okay.
I'm going to say one.
Yeah.
12 transported,
12.
so 10.
Yeah. 12 transported, 2 victims were deceased. And also going back to your previous question, I want to make very clear, we hear those concerns of the neighbors loud and clear. We definitely, today is not the day to have those conversations with the company. We are focused on the victims, their family, finding out what happened, providing support to all of the victims' families. But we hear the concerns of the neighbors loud and clear, and that certainly will be something on our mind as we talk about the future. Yes?
What's the communication like between Louisville Fire and the company with determining victims and people unaccounted for?
Well, at the scene early on, we were advised that everyone was accounted for. The company was accounting for all of their employees, and as the chief just mentioned, we originally thought, based on the individuals who had been transported to the hospital, along with the other individuals that the company had accounted for, we thought everyone was accounted for until later in the evening, as Chief O'Neill just described.
Is it confirmed that there are no other people?
Again, that is our understanding. You'll have to, the company is not here this morning. They were invited to this press conference. They are not here this morning. You'll have to ask the company that. All of our understanding is that everyone is accounted for at this time. Correct. They were found, as the Chief O'Neill said, unfortunately, that victim was found in the rubble when they went back in last evening.
Do you believe that victim died in the initial explosion?
Again, I want to say something for our firefighters that had to go in there and the things that our people see day in and day out. There was a tremendous level of trauma to this victim, and it was completely untenable in the area that he was found. But again, to show the dignity to the family and to the victim, they still went in there to in a dangerous situation in the middle of this collapse to recover that victim.
Do you know how many structures at homes and businesses are damaged from the explosion?
So we don't have a count on that. Certainly, if people live in that area, we encourage them, get in touch with your insurance company to do investigations on that. The insurance experts are going to be able to assist with that process.
I know
suspicious activity?
So as we mentioned earlier, ATF's deploying a national response team. Part of their response is to help Louisville Metro Fire determine the actual cause. But we have had an opportunity to speak with some of the plant employees that were there, witnesses in the neighborhood, and also it's been broadcast, there's some surveillance video of the actual explosion. And so we don't have any reason to believe at this moment that there's any type of nefarious activity. But again, we want to make sure that we have a thorough investigation, and we'll find out what the actual cause was.
There was an order after the last explosion 20 years ago to rebuild in a certain way. Did that happen? And did this explosion happen in the old part of the building or the new part?
So, secondary to that 2003 event, that dealt with a solid anhydrous ammonia that is no longer on site. That was not dealt with here. The only thing we can speak to that is that our inspections of that plant over the past several years showed no other issues. As far as the location, I'd have to go back and double check and see the exact locations.
Some of the people yesterday here to see, reporters and also people who live in the area, described a smell and a taste almost when they were there. What was that exactly, and could that be dangerous to the people who experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, some of that was just the byproducts of combustion, the fire, and most, if not all of that in the neighborhood went away once that fire was extinguished a very short time after the fire department arrived on site. We did have a fire that was determined a little bit later that ended up just being some grass, where some electrical wires caught some grass on fire that hadn't been de-energized yet, and that was going through the air as well. But, like I said, they had air monitors out, and when we talk about air monitoring, it's not, we've got a very sophisticated system in Jefferson County when it comes to air monitoring. You don't have to necessarily hold an air monitor and a human being walk that through the neighborhood. We can put what's called an area array that the Louisville Metro Health Department as well as the Louisville Fire Department has, where we can put those out strategically in the neighborhood, and we can monitor that back at the command post. So we're monitoring it real time. We don't have to continuously send teams out at various times, and nothing's missed in between those times. So, like I said, between the several agencies throughout Jefferson County, we've got a very sophisticated air monitoring system.
So the people who experienced that should not feel concerned?
No, not at this time.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you all very much. We'll continue to keep you up to date if there's additional information to provide. Thank you.